Shirley here with Jupiter point of Thales, and this is Mars hour, Luna night. Mars is in Leo, separating from a trine to Venus in Aries, and the moon is in Libra, um, ruled by Venus, and Venus is also ruling Uranus. So a lot has been talked about the ingress of Neptune into Aries and the upcoming ingress of Saturn into Aries, but we only have so much time of Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus at the end of Taurus is, for many, many people, incorporating the topic of the lovers that actually love. For those of you who are embarking into numerology year 2, where you balance the rest and expansion and contraction, okay, rest and labor, being receptive and being providing, and this is regardless of your gender. So for many of you, that might be an extra important thing to pay attention to, because since 2018, Uranus has been in tropical Taurus. And whenever Uranus enters a Venus sign, which is the sign of connection, it is shaking, liberating, transforming, divorcing, and unionizing in an unpredictable fashion, liberating us. And Uranus has a lot to do with what people call Kundalini energy, or the rising of the sexual energy through the breathing from the spine, embodiment, tantric connection, and all these juicy and lovely things. At the same time, this is the axis that is involving the fixed axis. So this is Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. And the other polarity of the relaxed arousal Venusian, Taurian nature is the scorpionic transformation. And so with Uranus in Taurus, we both meet the quest to embodiment, as well as the release of everything that has been blocking that embodiment. So, for example, Uranus in Taurus began to be the era of both the Me Too, but also the pleasure culture. Um, okay, if Neptune that has ended his journey, almost ended his journey in Pisces, because there would be a retrograde and then reingress in 2026, has been a lot about the channeling. And then you ask yourself, well, what am I channeling? What am I channeling? There are all kinds of, okay? And Uranus has been uh, um, receiving the eurekas from our own body. But also, Uranus rules the nervous system. So it had to release, both expose, release, and purge what is not in alignment with our own sovereign sexual energy. And why do I say sovereign sexual energy? Not because the word sovereign is trendy, but because it takes the I am of Aries to connect with another I am in Taurus. Okay, it takes the one to have another one and then a two. Okay, to consist of two ones. And so, um, for many of you, the Uranus may have been a point of divorce, but also astrology, science, scientific revolution, reconnection, disconnection, also trauma and dissociation and shock, okay? All these things. Whereas the quest with Uranus is to liberate you from what is not in the alignment of the the lovers that actually love. And that means all through, and now we are in May, so self-pleasure May, all through self-pleasure, how we are intimate with ourselves, how we use the sexual energy, but also all the way up to the many ways in which life energy has been used, harvested, and and the many ways it's used for, that when that's not sovereign and respectful of sovereignty, there's no union. So it, with Rahu in Pisces, we can say depletes sperm count. But it needs to cross a certain threshold. So that is one thing, but it can also be depleting of iron levels and of erection levels. It can be depleting of trust and vulnerability that basically are required for communication. And um, particularly, it exposes and unravels and transforms those type of scorpionic, okay, the other pole, the 12 o'clock from Uranus, that have been very aware of the sexual energy, but they have been aware from a perspective of secret societies, covenants, and orders where pretty much, people meet in a way and in a setting that is not so compatible with trust, union, communication, um, particularly when the use of the energy is to control. Okay, but the use of the energy is to control, or to make nature obey. And we even have a reformation, a liberation of the way we have been doing occult. Those that have been, and how that affects our ability to orgasm with ourselves and with one another in a way that's actually liberating, that's not partaking in mind control, that's not puppeteered and puppeteering, but actually in union. And it is a great art. Not only is it a great art, it is such a great art that it ushers us to Golden Ages art. So with Uranus, we learn to pay attention, whether it is in the music that we hear, the art, the pictures. When we see pictures of lovers, do we see pictures of lovers that actually love? When we hear romantic music, when we listen to music, to love song, do we hear a love that is actually loving? Do we even have an example of a love that is actually loving? Does our art ever portray a love that is actually loving? And Uranus at the end of Taurus is finalizing, releasing those relationship contracts, but also sexual energy usages that are not in alignment with the love that's actually loving. You think about the next sign is Gemini. Gemini's children. It's childlike innocence. And when you reconnect with the self, there's a lot of childlike innocence. The I am, there's a lot of how to reconnect to the I am, what I want. Okay, there's a lot of passion and creation within it that then connects with another person that is thus connected, and that brings what? It brings, whether a physical or creative project, it has a baby together. As a relational astrologer, a lot of people that had Uranus transit, I had numerous times where people were like, is this my twin flame? And sometimes they were married, the other partner were married, they both had an intense affair, And I asked, okay, what else happened in your life since you met this person? And essentially, you don't believe me. I began to paint. I began to listen to music. I began to do something creative with my life. Oh, that aspect of me was liberated. I was like, this is what this affair is about. I don't know if you will be together or not be together, but Uranus comes to liberate the energy, the sexual energy, life energy, so that you will live. Who you will live with, I don't know. But in essence, Uranus comes to tell you, first of all, live. Live, be life. And take up space. Whoever connects with you on that wavelength is being life with you. Now you can create life or procreate or continue. And so Uranus would have sometimes the conspicuous ability to have even unusual affairs. Unusual desire. Uranus loves to surprise us. Um, I could say about myself in my year one, foundational year, there's been a lot of attempts to meet me up with certain people and so on. And there was always something like gaslighty about that. There was always something that's kind of like what some people were even groomers or something like that. And it wasn't that they inherently were like, something wrong with them. It's just like their role in the system or the structure of the system. And then I said, I am married to astrology. Lo and behold, I was introduced to a person who has Uranus, ruler of astrology, right on my descendant. So Uranus tends to surprise you in those ways. And that completely transformed and liberated a lot of things in my life. Um, and so Uranus comes here to throw out the window all the preconceived notions we had about what is a commitment, how does a commitment look like, um, what is an intimate encounter. Even that, okay, how many people been astral since COVID? With the good, the bad, and evil. So first it's like, oh, there's something beautiful and so on, and then the people try to siphon your energy or all those things, and then learning the more horrid things like the astral rapes, and all that. Um, but then there's also the boundary setting, and miracles that suddenly appear, and the many things that are there. And Uranus is also not just in itself; it is also about community, the mass nervous system. And so when the planet of community meets the planet of, and it's usually about the underdogs, right? Um, so when this meets the zone of connection, we have um, a quest to be liberated, not just on a relational level. It is not just Uranus shaking up the Catholically married couple. Okay, but he will have affair with this, she will have affair with that, and then I don't know. She will want to be a combat pilot. He would want to paint and dance. Okay, or whatever. Uranus can tend to do that, but it's also through that people saying, hey, Uranus, you bring us so much. You are so correct. Yeah, that person, they should be doing music. Yeah, that person, they should be also painting. Yeah, we should also temple into astrology. Like, yes, we should do that. But, hey, Uranus, what about all this betrayal called the people that command the people to rape, to this, to that, and it's usually the banks doing that? It's like, what about liberation from that? Because all that you call us to do is basically reconnect with something. We come to reconnect with something, then we see that What are the blockages that were hidden from our eyes? And those blockages can also be the reason why people felt like either their relational life is gloomy, or alternatively, if they feel life, they betrayed someone. Um, and in that sense is also for why the preconceived notions that we have about relations, about the sexuality, that have nothing to do with the truth of who we are. And how prevalent were the practices of breaking down a person, sometimes a baby, to create, to mold, to shape something that was never meant to be molded, that was never meant to be treated like a puppet or like a like a statue or clay. And this is 22 as I speak. We're going to have a very powerful lunation in Scorpio on 22-degree, Sun 22-degree Taurus, Moon 22-degree Scorpio. So this is facilitating that understanding and that notion of the curation and transmutation that is needed. This is the degree of Scorpio that comes to transform what was, to allow what no longer served to die. Those practices, those uses where people would use a Kundalini energy and a sexual energy not to have union, but they did it from tremendous trauma that quests to be transmuted. And it is not questing to go into preconceived traditional notions that are also based on the very practice. So they're also what people call the false light. And it's not something you can summon or summarize with left or right hand path. Taurus has its own wisdom. The sexual energy has its own wisdom. It is not like the wisdom of Aquarius of resources distribution, and yet is not disconnected from resources. Okay, Aquarius, the fixed star, then Algedy is about wealth redistribution. It's the people that take from the rich and give to the poor. Okay, but with the sexual energy is completely different. There is an importance to the yes, no, and maybe, to what Aries brings, which I like this, I don't like that. It's very important. It cannot be mitigated by Aquarius. This is the square where Aquarius has, oh, but that person doesn't receive attention, or but that person doesn't receive attention, or but that person. And Taurus has this, wait, there is something else going on here. Oh, but that person not married, but that person not married, but that person, wait. What is the single person trying to tell you about all these married people? Are they not betraying themselves? So many of them cheat. So many of them cheat. Hushed under the rug. How many people married because somebody got pregnant? They never get along. Is it good for the children? All these things in the what we call them, okay, the fluids. Did you notice that when people do love tantrically and reconnect, and actually when they're attracted to each other, when it's a yes from both of them, you notice that that you don't have to pay for the water. It's something that Taurus has, that Uranus is learning and learning and learning, because Uranus comes and tries to liberate, okay? And then it liberates from here, liberates from that, and now you have downloads, you have clear knowing, you have an orgasm, and you realize something about the cosmology of it. That's Uranus. That's Uranus with Taurus. It's fantastic. And then Uranus tries to bring, oh, but that, oh, but that, oh, but that. And the wisdom of Taurus it is in square relation to Aquarius. So it takes the time to integrate, it takes the time to understand what is this Uranus coming to do in Taurus. And for Uranus itself, takes the time to understand the Taurian land, how to meet the liberation, how to liberate with the sexual energy and the life energy from this, what seems to be stagnant and stubborn Taurus. And what Taurus might be stubborn about that is actually liberating for the Uranian. But there's also the polarity with Scorpio. And so as we approach the full moon in Scorpio, that's going to be degrees away from Uranus on Medusa Gorgon, we are coming to ask ourselves the notion of un petit mort, okay, is going to be, it is erotic, but um, it's also very real. We ask ourselves, where are the lovers that actually love? And we ask ourselves on a religious, societal, currency, resources, energy, occultistic practices, secret societies and order practices. Hey, where are the lovers that actually love? One thing for Uranus, it understands that in slavery-based society, love cannot exist. And that can be a profound, shocking discovery for people. It's not for nothing that one of the famous people who survived ritual abuse, that was supposed to be, was raised to be a singer and performer, but also child assassin and espionage, that met with the upper echelons and the elite and the politicians and everybody, and that is Annika Lucas. She was somehow smuggled out of those arenas because of the intense torture. Um, and her book was called The Quest for Love. So the liberation from the darkest pits of reality are in one with the quest for love, the love that is actually loving. Uranus in Taurus reminds us that Venus is about love. And that the war, if she's the goddess of love and war, the war is to retrieve for the situation where there can be love. Is calling us to question every single practice in our life and how it affects diplomacy, intimacy, artistic expression. How many artists created great arts and were born in concentration camps and this and that, but when Hitler was a painter, they were like, this is boring, soulless. They were like, if it is not the martyrdom fight, then it's boring art. Hitler had a Uranus in Libra, another Venus sign. And so we have to question ourselves over anything Venusian. Is it supportive of a love that is actually loving? It's the quest for love. Because the next one up is children. The next one up is trade. The next one up is contracts and words. And the books. The next one up is city. The next one up is the civil war that those that abolished slavery won territorially. That's Aldebaran. One country that has Mercury Aldebaran is State of Israel. It has Uranus at the endecan of Gemini. And you ask Julie, but how did Israel abolish slavery? Look at the Declaration of Independence relative to the area. They granted freedom for women and regardless of gender. They were not doing anything that any of the other crooks weren't doing before and after them. But as long as Israel was keeping up with the standard, and the minute Israel began to deteriorate, then came 73 war. 1991, I was just a child, so I don't remember. It was the Gulf War, but it came from the northeast. That was very dangerous for Israel. But when Israel began to deteriorate furthermore, then what happened is for the 7th October. And now, it doesn't matter the response of Israel if it does not retract from the deterioration of the Declaration of Independence. We see the country that was, or the person that was almost isolated in supporting Israel cannot anymore hold diplomatic relations. The government was aiming to suspend diplomatic relations with Israel. That was Holland. And the European Union, the greatest trading partner of Israel. Why? Who are we fighting in Yemen? The children of Yemen. It's very important. So this is also politically. I overheard a conversation of a man, maybe between high school to army, saying, in Judaism, a 13 years old boy is a man. What does it mean? That the seat age of consent. Now, if this is the perception, do we not understand how we were invaded? By whom? By those who say that Muhammad waited for 6 years old Aisha to turn 9. Because a 13 years old boy is a man. Very simple. Pluto ingressed into 5th house of Israel. Is also children. And ritual abuse not being tended to. 300 children ritual abused in Israel. Everybody. The police threatens the life of the people. The only way for Israel to retract and retrieve its diplomatic relation and trading partners is to tend to that. It's the only thing that can work. It doesn't matter what we do in Gaza, in Yemen, in I don't know what. Doing the job of China. It's China territory and it's NATO territory, it's US interest. We're doing a job for them instead of a job for us. And we lose every other partner and being portrayed as what we all know. Because of the ritual abuse. The abuse of life energy for whichever reason, whichever sources, banking. And this happens in Israel. For 300 children testified and silenced. We can go to war over all over the world. But until we tend to this and change this, we cannot retrieve diplomatic relations. We will always be seen as the worst of the worst. Such is the power of Uranus. Uranus went on the sun of Israel. You see, it's not just women. It's that the life energy is to create union. Children need to have childhood. Before Uranus ingresses into Gemini, we tend to the ritual abuse from the core issue. Why women raped? Because men were raped. Why men were raped? Because of some ritual order, something. Is it solitary people that do that? No, they work in networks. You can have a candlelit dinner, wear, silk, lychee, and what was it I was singing then? And Sirius Rising, I was singing then. Yeah, Oak 6 Juni, I know. I didn't pay attention that was 6 Juli. Yeah, I didn't pay attention that was the date. But that was, you can do whatever uh, uh, um, uh, you do to prepare and so on and so forth. But is wealth block, energy block, and orgasm block. We're talking about orgasm that is not from trauma. This is relaxed arousal. It's not for energy siphoning. Is what we can do is that the truth comes out and it comes to be changed and transmuted. But in this, there is opportunity. If I take it from the diplomatic, let's say now we have case of country. Everybody abandons. Everybody abandons. It's like fight alone. We don't want to fund you. We don't want to be trading you. We don't want find alone you. But what opportunity is, it's not for outside where you go to conquer outside. Is what Uranus come to liberate from inside, because then there will be civil war. Are we prepared for the civil war? Civil war is about labor rights, abolishing slavery. Are we prepared for the Uranus return? For the answer is within. And it looks like it's devastating. Everybody against, nobody for us. But if we look within, tending to those things. Because who are the people that caused this? Same people that ritually abused those 300 children. And they were also the children. So it's not about off with their heads. But it is about changing the trajectory and providing healing and stopping the rituals. That's what is needed, to stop for those rituals that block our wealth, that block our diplomatic relations, that block our ability to be intimate, that block our ability to have yield, that block our ability to work because we don't see yield to our work, that block our trust, that block our ability to be true to ourselves and create. That eventually, if everybody says in Israel, or Iran is an existential threat, no, it's in the northeast. Yes, it can be existential threat, but only if we match for that type of toxicity, right? It's not existential threat when we don't do for these rituals. And for many of you, either you go through the personal to meet the societal, or you go to the societal and then you meet the personal. They both overlap. And then you have eurekas. Or I understand why I wasn't successful, because of course I'm single, because even if I did commoner, then I believe in him, I trust in him, I empower him. He becomes a more successful, a more successful, a more successful. Now he has to work with the mafia. If he's really successful, has to work with the mafia. But they have rituals that do betrayal, do rape, do all these things that block both of our wealth. And so it doesn't matter what we do as couple, that those things need to change on societal level. Or you go from societal level, maybe you're a mob boss and you say, I do this, I do that, I practice all the rituals, I sacrifice all this, human trafficking there, extortion cult there, extorted this politician, they do whatever, but something is not something, it's lost diplomatic relation, lost this, lost that. What to do? How you use the sexual sovereignty. Sexual what? You're supposed to control everybody. I am God. I make everything obey. I make everything. Boom, you lost the everything. Because if only you are here in solipsism, you cannot be with. That means both diplomatic relationship, intimate relationship, any type of relationship. It cannot be based on trust. So always betrayal. So, but they say for not to betray the mafia and not to betray. Yeah, but you train everybody to betray everything, and you think the mafia is exempt. That's the power of Uranus at the end of Taurus. And this is why, as we have the liberation for us, not an alignment for love that's actually loving. It's time for the lovers that actually love.